How's it going, everybody? My name is RamenCop, and welcome back to another episode of Fear Gauge. I know you might notice that the setup looks a little bit different, and that is because, would you believe it, I moved again. That's right. And this time, it actually feels like I am in a RamenCop setup. I'm no longer living in a frat house or a dormitory. I've actually moved into a proper house. So, it feels pretty good. I know. I'm a big adult now, know how it goes. But anyway, so today on the Fear Gauge, we are going to be talking about the new movie from, I think it's A24 or something like that, called Bring Her Back. Now, this movie, piece de resistance. I love it. I love this movie so much. I really enjoyed it. But again, I am not here to tell you about I'm not here to critique the movie. I'm not going to tell you how good the movie is, plot wise, or anything like that. I'm just here to tell you how scary it is, which, let's get right into it. So I actually did quite a bit of work on the non-spoiler sections, because I realized in like the last couple of Fear Gauge videos, I had just been kind of like lightly brushing past the non-spoilers section, because I was kind of like unsure about how to go and like tell you about the non-spoiler section, like tell you how scary it is without spoiling anything, because I was like, I feel like that's a big part of the horror movie itself, or the horror media, is actually telling you like what specifically made it scary. But I guess I just needed to pull back the reins on spoilers and stuff like that, because you can actually tell a person a lot about a film without spoiling anything about it. So anyway, here's the new revamped kind of approach to non-spoilers. So for this one, I think I was listening to Creepcast, but I think Meat Canyon said it the best when he was talking about this movie, which is actually part of the reason why I went and saw it. But he said that this film doesn't mess around with pretending to not be a horror movie, and I have to agree, he is completely correct. This movie does not mess around at all. I mean, you know right from the get-go that it's a horror movie. There's no messing around. It doesn't play around like, oh, this family's moving into a nice house, oh yeah, like the stupid horror movie tropes or whatever. If I could describe this level of horror, I would kind of say that it has like the same types of like same dread or something like that of a horror film as like The Silence of the Lambs, and the same level of weirdness as like Longlegs. If you haven't seen either of those movies, I think you should watch them for your own research. All I'm saying, this is not something that you should take your parents to. Definitely not a casual watch, unless you're a certified freak like me. No, I'm just kidding. I was very, very impressed with this horror movie. I feel like it broke the curse of mediocrity for modern horror movies. This kind of like went above and beyond, and I really appreciated that. It seems like there was a lot of passion put into this. It's not just like one of those schlocky horror films that it's not just like one of those schlocky horror films that's kind of put out now with like $1 million budget that nobody's gonna watch. Like, it's not like the 12th Insidious movie. It has its own character, and I feel like it's kind of earned its spot in like a modern horror movie spotlight. So this movie definitely had me metaphorically biting my nails, because that's gross. Please, I would never bite my nails, in anticipation for the characters in it, and I was definitely on the edge of my seat the whole time. If not for the actual terrifying aspects of the film, it could very easily be tagged as like suspenseful thriller. Like, if there wasn't any scary aspects or whatever, just the plot itself would be like an actual scary thing, or like an actual suspenseful movie, like The Call, like that movie. That's kind of what it reminds me of, like as far as like the suspense levels go. It has some pretty intense scenes in it while being either emotionally or physically intense. It definitely added to the difficulty of watching it. Me personally, I'm a scary stuff enthusiast. So, like, I watched the entire movie without looking, but even I was like, oh, like, God, oh, that sort of thing. This horror could be described as like supernatural, some tastes of real life horror, body horror, that sort of thing, and some tastes of psychological horror. So if you're not a big psychological horror movie, I think you can get away with this one. There's not a lot of trippy sequences or anything like that. Yeah, so it's more like a real life kind of horror thing. Best comment on how scary this movie is without spoiling it would be that when the movie ended, oh yes, this is like a little anecdotal. When I actually went and saw the movie in theaters, when the movie ended, everybody just got up and left without saying anything. Like, sometimes some people meander around, like start talking to each other, that sort of thing, talking to the people like they came with, so that sort of thing, or like maybe wait for like a post-credit scene or something like that. Well, not this one, not this movie. No. Everybody, including myself, just got up and left as soon as the movie was over. Like, there's no messing around with this one. I need to go home, like that sort of thing. Like, thank you movie theater for putting on the movie. I'm going home, like that sort of thing. So that's the last bit that I have to discuss, like how scary the movie is without spoiling anything. So if you want to go and see the movie or whatever, you can pause the video now, go check it out, that sort of thing. I think it's still in theaters at this point, but from now on, I'm actually going to be talking about things that are actually in the movie and what was actually scary in the movie when I actually saw it. So from now on, it's spoilers. I'm going to be talking about specific scenes. I'm going to be talking about specific things that they did on the production side of things that made it scary. And so if you don't want any of that, don't watch the movie. You can skip to the end or something like that to get the score on the fear gauge. But from here to when I actually grade it, this is all spoilers. So moving on, let's talk about the spoilers. So right off rip, it has a very unique take on the horror movie genre because the main characters are an adopted brother, Andy, and his sister, who is blind, Piper. Those are the two characters there, our two protagonists, as you can say. It's a cute dynamic. Like, Andy makes the world much nicer for Piper. Like, he says, like, things are, pretty and they're flowers, whatever. Like, he just makes it seem like it's much better. Meanwhile, like, she's being made fun of and stuff like that. It's a nice little thing, and you already feel for these characters. But like I said in the beginning, this movie does not play around, and so, like, their dad unexpectedly dies in the shower, like, really early in the beginning. But it's not just like he has like a heart attack or anything. It's like it plays into a fear that I feel like a lot of people have, me included, which is like slipping and falling and like hitting your head in the shower. It's like the worst. That's like what everybody is afraid of, right? It's like that's like just the worst, most stupid, unexpected way to be injured, let alone be killed, that sort of thing. And so seeing that, you're like, it plays into that sort of horror or that fear that people already have. But then the kids get put into something even scarier, which is American Social Services. So to start off, how visceral this movie gets, right after the dad dies, as if that's easy enough to watch, right? Piper, who is blind, crawls on the floor and like puts her hands all over their dad's body so that she can understand what's going on, and you're just like, oh my god, the blind girl's touching the dead body, oh my god, please. Like, it just plays into the actual terror of like that scenario. I don't personally, I've never been in that scenario, or I don't know anybody who's been in that scenario, so just imagining yourself being in that scenario would just be terrible, let alone a little blind girl being in that scenario. Then you immediately know something's up with the adopted mother who like takes them. So she takes right as soon as they arrive, like, you notice that she's like way nicer to the to Piper, the blind girl, than she is to Andy, her brother. Like, they take a selfie, like, oh, let's take a selfie, you guys just got here. And like, I understand that Andy is like going to try to become Piper's like legal guardian, that he's gonna apply for guardianship, you know, that sort of thing, because he's almost 18 in like 3 months or whatever. So like, the whole idea is that like, okay, they're just gonna stay there at this adopted mother's house for 3 months, right? That's the assumption. But so she takes a picture with them, but like blocks out Andy's face, and immediately you're like, okay, I don't really like this girl, right? And she actually, the adopted mother, didn't want Andy. She only wanted the Piper, but because like Andy and Piper like basically adopted siblings, they couldn't be split up. So that's already like, you already know something's up. You don't know what it is. You're like, I don't know what she's gonna do. In like one fell swoop, like they literally just move in. Laura, the adopted mother, is already going like crazy. She's already like looking through Andy's phone and stuff like that, and she's already like behaving weird to Andy, and you're just like, what the hell? Like, even like, I get it, it's the adoption and stuff like that is a messy subject or whatever, and it's annoying, but I feel like as a mother who's adopting, you know, like, I feel like you should be a little nicer. But obviously, you know, judging by the context of this film, you kind of understand why she's not as nice later on. But even so, like, there is like no relaxation given to Andy, right? Like, Laura is just terrible to him, and you already know. You're like, what is the goal here? You know, what is she gonna do? And then there's also this weird kid, Oliver, who's also at the house, and so it's the assumption that she adopted him too. But bro looks like 11 from Stranger Things. Like, you already know some crazy stuff's going on, and you already know that like Oliver's gonna have something to play with this, you know. But I also liked that Laura tries to be like Andy, how Andy like describes the world better for Piper. I like that she tries to do that and describes Oliver, who is this like basically bald kid who's like malnourished and whatever and doesn't speak. She like describes him as having red and curly hair, which comes in later. But I loved that it's like she's lying to, like, when Andy does it, it's like a nice thing that like an older brother is doing for his like blind sister, you know. But when Laura does it, it's like, why are you lying to her? You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of strange, you know. So it puts you on edge immediately, right? So the imagery in this movie is completely terrifying, with like specifically the video of the ritual she's trying to do. It's very reminiscent of like the Poughkeepsie tapes, and I was also reminded of like Megan is Missing, those two movies where it's like those VCR amateur like analog recordings of something terrible and visceral, like that being and playing with this like movie of the story that's unraveling. It's like very it adds, well, let's just say it adds to the creepiness, adds to the terror of it. But what makes it even worse is she's constantly rewinding it and playing it, and at first you didn't really understand why in the beginning when they arrived there she's like blasting music, you know, and you're like, that's weird. She's like a 40-50-year-old woman, like, why is she blasting like random music? But she's blasting the music to play the audio of the ritual tape, which I think is like freaky. But it also plays into it has a direct comparison, because earlier in the film, well, I guess later in the film, but like, you find out that the dad would turn on the shower and bring Andy into the shower so that he could beat him, which is terrible, you know, terrible situation. Obviously, that makes everybody uncomfortable, right? But then now you've got the parallel here that she's playing loud music to understand the ritual that she's trying to play across. It's cool. I like the double parallel there. I loved that they only give you bits and pieces of the ritual or of like the tape and stuff like that, so you kind of understand what she's trying to do, or you kind of understand that she's following this ritual, but you don't understand, like, they give you the steps but they don't give you the final product, you don't understand like what the final product is. So it's like if you just got a bunch of pieces for a Lego set and they just gave you the instructions, but they don't tell you what it's going to be. So you're like, okay, I kind of understand from the big pieces, like what it might be, you know, what it might turn out to be, but you know, you don't really know what the final product is as they give you the pieces of this, as they give you the steps of the ritual, that sort of thing. So on that note, I understand the movie is called Bring Her Back, but you don't really understand what that means until much later in the film, because like I said, it gives you big pieces of like the instructions at a time, so you don't really get to see like the final product. So you kind of understand that like the adopted mother had a blind daughter who drowned, right? Like you understand that, and you understand that she wants her back, but you don't understand like what she's doing to get there. Like you might think like, oh well, maybe it's like a pet cemetery thing, like maybe she's got to bury her and then like do this ritual and then she might like come out of the ground, that sort of thing. But it's like a weird ritual that like replaces someone's living body, but like a demon or angel, as they're called in the film, they have to like eat several real humans, and then they absorb the soul or something of the human that they ate, and then they have to like kiss a new body to like put that soul into the new body or something like that. I don't know, maybe if I rewatch it I will understand it more. But that also kind of worries me, because I feel like rewatching a horror film, you kind of lose a lot of the horror because you kind of know what to expect. So anyway, that was my first watch, and so that's what I kind of assumed. That's what I kind of understood. So if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments, but that's kind of the idea that I got. This movie is visceral. There's no denying that. This is kind of a separate point, but this movie's visceral. There's no denying that. Also, if you see me looking this way, it's because I actually wrote all my like talking points, like the mental notes I was making during the film. I wrote them down. So I'm just making sure that I hit them all, you know? So the visceral imagery of this film is like I said, I keep saying it, like I keep repeating, maybe this is a motif. If you have taken an English class in the last 20 years, you might be reminded of what that means. The motif I keep using is like it's hard to watch, right? This movie is hard to watch, and maybe that's what they were trying to go for. But like there's a scene where Oliver, or like Andy, cuts Oliver some fruit because Oliver like was locked in a room, and so while we didn't know at the time why Laura kept locking him in a room, it was because he's like a weird like angel or demon who's like eating, like he goes on these eating frenzies to like fill himself up or something. I don't know. But anyway, so Andy thinks that she's not feeding him, so he gives her, or he cuts a fruit for Oliver, right? And then instead of taking the fruit, Andy looks away for a second, and then Oliver grabs the knife that he used to cut it, and he starts eating the knife, and it is like, oh god, it is, oh, it's such a hard scene to watch. It's spine chilling. It's literally spine chilling. Bing chilling, spine chilling. I've only ever felt the same way watching that knife scene as I've only ever felt that way after watching one movie, and that was Oculus. Again, if this is a spoiler for Oculus, sorry, that'll probably be on the fear gauge later. I'll do a video about it later because I actually really enjoyed that film as well. In Oculus, there's a scene where she grabs an apple and she goes to take a bite of the apple, but in that scene, she takes a bite of a light bulb, and it's like, ooh, it's like, ooh, I've never in my mind imagined biting a light bulb, right? But after watching that scene, now I look at light bulbs and I think about that scene, you know, like it's like a curse, you know, that sort of thing. Well, same thing with this scene. I've never thought about biting a knife like with the blade side, right? But after watching this film, I now know that it would be terrible and awful, right? Like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bring her back. I now understand that eating a knife would be awful. It's just, both of those scenes are just really hard to watch, and I love that they tried something new and now they are giving the viewer an image that they never could have imagined on their own. Maybe you could have, I don't know, if you're cursed or something like that. Maybe you could have imagined that on your own, but they kind of give it to you, and oh, I just loved that so much. That really, again, I watched the entire movie. I did not take my eyes off the screen, but I was sitting there like, oh God, why are you doing that? There's also this scene where Oliver has like a feeding frenzy when like he escapes or something, and he eats like everything in the house, including like the counter and his own arm. And I'm just saying, Oliver is like the source of like 70% of the visceral imagery in this film. Like, to Oliver, or the demon, you know, what have you, there's no choice of violence or no violence, you know, like, oh, he woke up and chose violence. Oliver only chooses violence. He doesn't choose anything else, right? Well, there's a scene where he's biting the wooden counter in the kitchen, and it makes me wince thinking about it, because like the production team or whatever, the sound engineers, they did so good making it sound like his teeth are like struggling to bite through the wooden countertop, and I was just like, oh my God, oh, it's terrible. It's just done really well. And again, like I said about the light bulb and the knife comment, like, I now have the mental image of what it sounds like when somebody's trying to bite a wooden countertop, and I think that's terrifying and awful. This movie also does something nice, and something that I wish I could see more of, where like a couple horror movies do this, but like where an authority figure, which in this case is like the social worker, comes in, and she's the rescuer, right? She's going to be the one who is going to help Andy and Piper get out of this situation. And it's terrible because like you're stressing because Laura cleans up the house and makes everything look nice, and so you're like, oh crap, the social worker's not gonna find anything wrong, and they build it up like, oh, they've been friends for years, so she's just gonna ignore everything that's like bad or whatever and just walk past, you know, and let it go. So then Andy and Piper are left in a helpless situation again. But I actually like that they did this where the act that Laura's trying to put on just kind of like falls through, and so then the social worker sees her dead daughter, right? And she's like, oh my God, kids, we gotta get out of here, you know, like, we gotta get out of here, kids, like. And so as her and Andy are running out, there's a scene where they're running to her car, to the social worker's car, to like get out of there and like go get Piper, and like that's going to be the resolution to the movie right there, right? You think you're watching the climax, right? You're like, oh, yes, this is the end. Oh, thank God. But they don't give you that resolution, because Laura runs both of them over with her car, and she kills the social worker instantly, and then she personally walks up and drowns Andy, which is like, oh my God, because now, like, from then my hands were like gripping the seat, you know what I mean? Like, I am like holding the hand rests. I'm like, oh no, because now the only protagonist left is Piper, and she is mostly blind. Where is this gonna go? You know what I mean? And so from there, it's like nearly impossible to take your eyes off the screen. Even if it is scary, you know, it's hard to remove yourself from that, you know? Also, when Piper discovers Laura was lying about Oliver, it's insane how you're like almost gripping the edge of your seat, like, run, Piper, but don't run too fast, because you're gonna run into something, I guess. I don't know, you're blind. It's difficult because this is like a big point of the movie. It's difficult because it removes the scenario where the viewer can think that they can do something better than the protagonist. So it's incredibly believable. So, because like this whole thing where like a foster mother like treats them badly and blah blah blah, it's believable and it could happen. So it's like a real world horror. But like, and like the demon thing isn't super unbelievable. Like, it's like you can kind of give way to your, like, you can be like, all right, I'll believe this for the sake of the film. So it kind of keeps it feels like it flows well. It's not super like, it's not Paranormal Activity where things are flying around and whatever else, but it's like, it's completely, I don't know, I feel like it allows the viewer to kind of understand. It's like, well, you know, nobody has ever done this crazy black magic ritual, so you can kind of understand that if they do, there is a possibility that this result, back to what I was talking about with the like the viewer can't think of ways to escape this horror. It's like in like a zombie apocalypse movie, those movies are almost never scary, because it's like, oh, okay, like The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead isn't too scary because it's like, oh, the zombies are gross, but like I would just build my house on like a lake or something, you know, like I would just get a boat, you know, that sort of thing. You know, there's always things like the viewer is thinking of ways to beat the thing, and it's like, you know, well, the main character is stupid because like they didn't do this, you know, that sort of thing. But in this movie they've completely removed that ability for the viewer, so because like, I don't know, I can from my perspective, and I think most people can agree on this, I would not understand how to handle that situation if I was blind, you know. In a rare fashion, Piper, the main character, who is only a little girl, by the way, is an expert and is doing everything she possibly can in the smartest way possible to survive, even the viewer wouldn't have thought about, you know? The reason I compared it to Silence of the Lambs earlier is because in the last couple of scenes, it matches the helplessness that the main character had in that film when she confronts the killer in his own basement in the dark. Again, you should go watch Silence of the Lambs. I think it's a great movie. It'll be on the fear gauge later, but I'm using it to kind of describe how scary this thing is. Like, our protagonist is blind, and like, yes, she kind of knows the house, but it was raining and there was mud everywhere, and she's getting chased by not one person but two people, and above all, she's only a young girl against like weird demon creature and a mom, you know? So like, let's just say the odds are completely stacked against her, but not so much that she's instantly screwed, but enough for us to be like scared for her well-being. You know what I mean? My last point here, this is like just to wrap it all up, is that I actually loved that this played into the whole creepypasta or ritual thing, like Bloody Mary or the Midnight Game. The whole, if you do these steps, you can achieve what you want, but like at what cost, you know, that sort of thing. It's kind of frightening to those of us who grew up in a time with like the internet was like starting to become a big thing, and like things like Slender Man or things like that. It kept us up at night, like with our friends and stuff like that, at sleepovers and whatever else. And I just think that creepypastas are like a horror treasure trove that I feel like if anyone wanted to create a production, like a scary production, they have like all thousands of stories for inspiration and stuff like that. But I love that this film is like, it plays into that unknowingness of what happens when you play into a ritual that you found from somewhere, you know, that sort of thing, to get what you want, right? Will it work? Will it not? You never know. But onto the gauge. So here's actually what I'm going to grade the film based on what I saw and whatever else. And let's just get right into it. Drum roll, please. I'm gonna give this film a 5. This is our first 5 on the fear gauge. We've given a lot of films a 4 because they've been scary, but they haven't really been like exceptionally scary. But this film, I feel like it reaches that status pretty well. And I think that a lot of people who have seen the film can agree with me on this one. This is definitely not a casual watch. It's definitely not something that you can just go and like, I think I'm gonna put on Bring Her Back tonight. I'm gonna get some popcorn, get some chips. You know, this is like a film that's like, now given, somebody did ask me, actually my brother asked me if the movie would still have the same effect if like it was watched in your living room or something like that. And my response to that was basically, I think if you are like committed to watching the movie, if you turn off the lights and you're just watching the movie the whole time, you're not talking all the way through or whatever, I think that you will understand how terrifying this film is, you know? And now I'm not saying like you have to like lock yourself in a completely dark room or stuff like that and like wear surround sound headphones to like experience the horror of the movie, but I think you do yourself a disservice if you watch the movie like lights on, everything like that, to fully enjoy the film, shutting the lights off and just watching the movie. I think you can really enjoy it and see how scary it is. But without further ado, of course, you know, with a 5 on the fear gauge. That's the first one. Hopefully there will be more. I do love rating these things. But that being said, if you want to see me rate a piece of media, whether that's a movie or an analog horror film or like a YouTube short film or anything like that, if you want to see me rate something on the fear gauge, by all means let me know in the comments. I love suggestions and stuff like that. I really love YouTube short films. I love analog horrors. I love horror movies. I'll watch anything. If you want to see me rate something like that, put it in the comments. And of course, you know, if you like what you see, leave a like and subscribe, because I love interacting with you guys and stuff like that. I think that's probably the best part about making the fear gauge and stuff like that is, you know, if you guys have any opinions, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, by all means drop a comment and stuff like that. I love talking with people, because some people will like see my video and they'll actually come up and talk to me and ask me like what I thought about this movie or whatever and stuff like that. And I think that that's probably the best part about these videos is, you know, like the actual discussion, because this is what this is, you know, I'm just inspiring a discussion on how scary these films actually are, you know, that sort of thing, like on a like an objective and subjective level. But anyway, like I said, if you want to see me rate something on the fear gauge, put it in the comments. If you have a point where you disagreed with me or agreed with me, you know, drop your thoughts in the comments. And above all, you know, subscribe. I love seeing that funny little number next to my name go up. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Deuces.